Have you ever experienced this? At the beginning, he texts you constantly. He wants to see you. He shows interest, attention, excitement. And then suddenly something changes. The messages become shorter. The calls become less frequent. And you start asking yourself the same painful questions. Did I do something wrong? Is he losing interest? Why is he pulling away? But here is the truth most people never tell you. When a man pulls away, the worst thing you can do is chase him. Because the moment you start chasing, questioning, and trying to force his attention, you lose the very thing that created his attraction in the first place. So today I want to share 3 powerful truths that will completely change the way you handle this situation. And when you understand them, something incredible happens. Instead of pushing him away, you make him want to come closer. Key point 1, understand his need for space. One of the most important things to understand when a man suddenly pulls away is that distance does not always mean rejection. Many people immediately assume that if someone becomes quiet, less responsive, or less emotionally expressive, it must mean their feelings are fading. But human emotions are rarely that simple. In many situations, when a man pulls away, it is not because he has stopped caring. It is because he is trying to understand what he feels, and sometimes the only way he knows how to do that is by stepping back for a moment. Men often process emotions differently than women. When feelings begin to grow stronger, when a connection starts to feel meaningful, or when a relationship begins to move towards something deeper, some men experience an internal shift. Suddenly the situation feels more serious than it did before. It stops being just casual conversation or fun moments together and starts to feel like something that could affect their future, their freedom, or their emotional world. When that happens, many men instinctively take a step back, not to run away from the relationship, but to gain clarity inside their own mind. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a new chapter in their life. They feel excitement, curiosity, and attraction, but they also feel uncertainty. They may begin asking themselves questions they did not think about before. Questions like, am I ready for something serious? Do I want to invest emotionally in this person? Can I handle the responsibility that comes with a deeper relationship? These questions do not always appear at the beginning when everything is light and easy. They appear when the connection starts becoming real. And when those questions appear, many men deal with them privately. Instead of talking through every emotion immediately, they retreat slightly into their own space to think. This can show up as fewer texts, slower replies, or less frequent communication. To the person on the other side, it may look like interest is disappearing. But often what is actually happening is that he is processing feelings that he does not yet fully understand. The challenge is that when someone feels this shift, their first reaction is usually fear. When the energy changes, the mind begins to create stories. He's losing interest. I must have done something wrong. Maybe he found someone else. These thoughts create anxiety, and anxiety creates the urge to fix the situation immediately. That is when people start sending more messages, asking more questions, or trying to pull the person back closer. But this reaction can unintentionally create pressure at the exact moment when space is what the other person needs. Pressure does not create clarity. It creates resistance. When someone is already trying to understand their emotions, being pushed to respond, explain, or reassure can make the situation feel overwhelming. Instead of moving closer, they may move even further away because they feel like they are being forced to provide answers before they are ready. It becomes less about the connection and more about escaping the pressure. This is why emotional composure is so powerful in these moments. When someone pulls back slightly and the other person remains calm, confident, and patient, it creates a completely different dynamic. Instead of pressure, there is space. Instead of anxiety, there is stability. And stability is something people are naturally drawn toward. When someone feels that they are not being chased or controlled, they have the freedom to return on their own terms. There is also another important psychological element at play. When someone steps back and notices that the other person is still living their life fully, still enjoying their passions, their friendships, their goals, it reinforces the idea that the connection is with someone who has emotional balance. Confidence is not shown by demanding constant reassurance. Confidence is shown by trusting that if a connection is real, it will find its way forward naturally. People are attracted to those who have a strong sense of self. When someone continues focusing on their own life rather than panicking about temporary distance, they are more likely to be successful. It shows that their happiness does not depend entirely on another person's attention. That kind of independence is deeply attractive because it communicates emotional maturity and self-respect. Another truth is that attraction often grows in moments of reflection. When someone is given space to miss a person, to think about them, and to remember the positive feelings they experience together, those emotions can actually become stronger. But if every moment of distance is filled with demands, tension, or emotional pressure, those positive reflections may never have the chance to form. Patience during these moments does not mean ignoring your own worth or accepting poor treatment. It means understanding that temporary emotional distance is sometimes a natural part of human connection. People need time to evaluate their feelings, especially when those feelings start becoming meaningful. The key is not to interpret every change in behavior as rejection. Instead, it is to observe calmly, maintain self-respect, and allow the situation to reveal its true direction over time. When you remain grounded during these moments, you protect your own emotional well-being. Instead of reacting out of fear, you respond from confidence, and that confidence shifts the entire energy of the situation. Rather than feeling chased or pressured, the other person feels free to return when they have processed their emotions. They begin to see you not as someone demanding their attention, but as someone who carries strength, patience, and self-assurance. In many cases, that emotional strength becomes one of the most attractive qualities you can show. Because while many people react with panic when faced with uncertainty, the person who remains calm stands out. They show that their value does not come from controlling someone else's behavior, but from the quiet confidence they carry within themselves. And that quiet confidence often does something powerful. It transforms a moment that could have pushed someone away into a moment that draws them back closer. Key point 2, never chase attention. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they feel someone pulling away is that they immediately try to close the distance by chasing attention. The silence, the slower replies, or the reduced enthusiasm can create a feeling of uncertainty that makes someone want to fix the situation as quickly as possible. The mind begins to panic, and that panic turns into action. More messages are sent, more questions are asked, and more effort is made to get the other person to respond the way they used to. It feels logical in the moment, because when something important to us feels like it is slipping away, our instinct is to hold on tighter. But in relationships, chasing attention often has the opposite effect of what we hope for. Attraction is a delicate balance between connection and freedom. When two people first meet and begin to feel drawn to each other, there is curiosity. Each person is discovering the other slowly. There is space to wonder, to anticipate the next conversation, to feel excitement about what might happen next. This curiosity plays a powerful role in building attraction. It allows emotions to grow naturally without feeling forced. But when someone begins chasing attention, that balance starts to disappear. Chasing attention usually looks like constant messaging, repeated attempts to start conversations, or seeking reassurance again and again. It may involve asking questions like, "Why are you not replying?" Or "Did I do something wrong?" Or "Are you still interested?" These questions come from a place of vulnerability, but they also create pressure. Instead of allowing the connection to breathe, they make the other person feel responsible for calming someone else's anxiety. Over time, this responsibility can feel heavy, especially if the person was already trying to create a little space. The reason chasing attention weakens attraction is because it shifts the dynamic of the relationship. Instead of two people choosing each other freely, it starts to feel like one person is trying to convince the other to stay engaged. Attraction thrives when both individuals feel they are making the choice to move closer. But when one person is constantly reaching while the other is pulling back, the connection begins to feel unbalanced. Another important psychological factor is perceived value. In every area of life, people naturally appreciate things that require some effort to obtain. This does not mean playing games or pretending to be unavailable, but it does mean maintaining a sense of personal boundaries and independence. When someone is always available, always responding immediately, and always trying to hold the other person's attention, it can unintentionally send the message that their time and energy are unlimited. When something feels unlimited, it often feels less valuable. Think about how attraction works at the beginning of a connection. There is excitement when someone receives a message from a person they like. There is anticipation when they know they will see that person again. These feelings grow partly because there is space between interactions. The moments apart allow the mind to think about the other person, to remember their smile, their voice, or the way the conversation made them feel. Those moments of reflection build emotional momentum. But when someone is constantly chasing attention, those moments of reflection disappear. The other person never has the opportunity to miss them because the communication never stops. Instead of curiosity building naturally, the interaction begins to feel routine or even overwhelming. Attraction needs room to grow, and when every moment is filled with attempts to secure attention, that room disappears. Confidence plays a powerful role in this dynamic as well. True confidence is not shown through constant pursuit of reassurance. It is shown through calmness, patience, and trust in one's own value. When someone feels secure within themselves, they do not feel the need to chase someone's attention or demand constant validation. They understand that a healthy connection develops through mutual effort, not through pressure. When you stop chasing attention, something important happens. The dynamic resets. Instead of trying to control the other person's response, you return your focus to your own life. You continue investing energy in your goals, your passions, your friendships, and the things that bring meaning to your days. This shift not only protects your emotional balance, but also changes the way the other person perceives you. When someone notices that you are not chasing them, it creates curiosity. They begin to wonder what you are doing, what your life looks like outside of your interactions with them. That curiosity can reignite interest because it reminds them that you are an individual with your own world, not someone whose happiness depends entirely on their attention. Independence is deeply attractive because it reflects strength and self-respect. Another important aspect of not chasing attention is emotional stability. When someone reacts to distance with panic or desperation, it signals that their emotional state is heavily dependent on the other person's behavior. But when someone reacts with calmness and balance, it sends a different message. It shows that they are capable of handling uncertainty without losing their sense of self. Emotional stability is one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess because it creates a sense of safety and maturity within the relationship. This does not mean ignoring someone completely or pretending not to care. It means allowing the connection to unfold naturally without forcing constant interaction. If someone reaches out, you respond warmly and authentically, but you do not feel the need to fill every silence or chase every moment of attention. You allow space for both people to move toward each other willingly rather than out of obligation. Over time, this approach creates a healthier dynamic. Instead of one person pursuing while the other retreats, both individuals feel free to invest in the connection at their own pace. The relationship becomes something that grows because both people want it, not because one person is trying to hold it together through constant effort. In many cases, when someone stops chasing attention, the other person begins to move closer. Again, without the pressure of constant messages or emotional demands, they feel more comfortable reconnecting. They may begin to reach out more often, initiate conversations, or show renewed interest. The space that once felt threatening becomes the very thing that allows attraction to return. The key lesson is that attention should never have to be forced. Genuine interest reveals itself naturally when two people are drawn to each other. By refusing to chase attention, you protect your dignity, your confidence, and your emotional well-being. You show that your presence is something valuable, not something that must be constantly offered in order to keep someone interested. And when you carry yourself with that level of self-respect, you create a powerful shift in the way people see you. Instead of someone who is trying to earn attention, you become someone whose attention feels meaningful and worth pursuing. Key point 3, focus on your value. One of the most powerful things you can focus on when someone begins to pull away is your own value. In moments of uncertainty, many people instinctively turn their attention outward. They begin analyzing every message, every delay in response, every change in tone, trying to understand what the other person is thinking or feeling. But the truth is that constantly focusing on someone else's behavior slowly pulls you away from the most important thing in any relationship, your own sense of self-worth. Value is not something that comes from how often someone texts you, how quickly they reply, or how much attention they give you on a particular day. Real value comes from the way you see yourself, the way you respect your time, and the standards you hold for how you allow others to treat you. When your confidence is built on someone else's reactions, your emotions rise and fall depending on their behavior. But when your confidence is built on your own self-respect, your stability remains strong regardless of temporary changes in someone else's attention. This is why focusing on your value is so important when someone pulls away. The moment you begin chasing someone who is uncertain about you, you unintentionally communicate that their approval is more important than your self-respect. Even if that is not what you intend, the message becomes clear through your actions. When you repeatedly try to hold someone's attention, it can create the impression that you are afraid to lose them. And when someone senses that fear, it can shift the balance of the relationship in a way that weakens attraction. But when you remain grounded in your own worth, something very different happens. Instead of reacting with panic or desperation, you respond with calm confidence. You recognize that your time, energy, and emotional investment are valuable. You understand that being part of your life is not something people should take for granted. This mindset naturally changes the way you behave. You stop trying to prove your worth because you already know it. Self-respect shows itself in subtle but powerful ways. It appears in the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, and the way you respond to uncertainty. When someone who values themselves experiences distance in a relationship, they do not immediately assume they are the problem. They remain open to the possibility that the other person simply needs time, or that the situation may not be the right fit. Instead of trying to force the connection to work, they allow the truth of the situation to reveal itself. This kind of emotional strength is incredibly attractive because it reflects independence. People are naturally drawn to individuals who have a strong sense of identity outside of the relationship. When someone has passions, goals, friendships, and a life that excites them, their presence carries a different kind of energy. They are not waiting for someone else to bring meaning into their life. They are already living with purpose, and a relationship becomes something that adds to their happiness rather than something that defines it. Focusing on your value also means protecting your emotional energy. When you constantly worry about someone else's attention, your mind becomes trapped in a cycle of overthinking. Every message becomes a source of analysis. Every delay becomes a reason for doubt. Over time, this mental pattern drains your confidence and creates unnecessary stress. But when you shift your focus back to your own life, your energy moves toward things that truly matter: personal growth, meaningful experiences, and the people who genuinely appreciate your presence. Another powerful aspect of valuing yourself is that it changes the way others perceive you. When someone senses that you respect your own boundaries and refuse to chase attention, you are setting a healthy and safe boundary for yourself. They begin to recognize that your time is not something easily taken for granted. Your presence starts to feel more significant because it is not constantly being offered without limit. This does not mean you become distant or cold. It simply means that you interact from a place of choice rather than desperation. Confidence rooted in self-respect creates a natural sense of intrigue. When someone sees that you are focused on living your life fully, they begin to wonder about the world you are building. Instead of feeling like they are the center of your emotional stability, they see that you are someone who brings strength and independence into a relationship. That realization often inspires a deeper level of interest because people are drawn to partners who have their own sense of direction and purpose. It is also important to remember that your value is not determined by whether someone chooses you. Sometimes two people connect, share meaningful moments, and still discover that they are not meant to move forward together. This does not diminish your worth in any way. It simply means that compatibility requires more than attraction. When you truly understand your value, you do not interpret every ending or moment of distance as a personal failure. Instead, you see it as part of the natural process of finding the right connection. When someone pulls away and you focus on your value, you shift your mindset from fear to clarity. Instead of asking, how do I make this person stay? You begin asking a much healthier question. Is this person someone who truly appreciates what I bring into a relationship? That question places your self-respect at the center of the situation. It reminds you that relationships should be built on mutual appreciation, not one-sided effort. Over time, this mindset transforms the way you approach connections. You become more selective about where you invest your emotional energy. You stop chasing people who are unsure about you because you understand that the right person will recognize your value without needing to be convinced. This does not mean relationships will always be easy, but it does mean you will approach them from a place of strength rather than insecurity. The most attractive quality a person can possess is quiet confidence. It is not loud, arrogant, or demanding. It is calm, steady, and deeply rooted in self-respect. When someone carries themselves with that kind of confidence, they naturally draw others toward them. Their presence feels balanced and secure, which creates an environment where genuine attraction can grow. By focusing on your value, you protect your emotional well-being and elevate the way others see you. You stop chasing validation and start living with purpose. You stop measuring your worth through someone else's attention and start recognizing the strength that already exists within you. And when you live with that level of self-respect, you send a powerful message without saying a single word. Your presence in someone's life is not something to be taken lightly. It is something to be appreciated, respected, and earned.